systemic change for gender inclusivity in employment. Our employment program is popular and successful, averaging an 80% success rate. However, further support is needed to continue to integrate more women into the economy, with an additional focus on those facing multiple barriers to employment. Funding to support the development and execution of long-term niche programming is needed. While pilot programs have been overwhelmingly successful, financing has not been sustainable to build and grow these programs long-term. Finally, wraparound program supports, such as wardrobe allowances and technology allocations, go a long way to ensuring inclusion and access. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Meltem Kilikasla now, who led our Elevate Women Entrepreneurs program for 3 years and will speak to some of the additional opportunities for support. Meltem?
Meltem, you're going to have about 1 minute and 20 seconds, okay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Meltem, and I'm honored to lead the Elevate program, supporting 600 diverse women entrepreneurs annually. At Yes, we value our community's diversity, each client with their unique backgrounds, business sectors, and even personal definitions of success. Today, I would like to shed light on 3 important areas that are crucial for the continued success of our initiatives and the empowerment of women entrepreneurs. Firstly, these programs are only available because of the available government funding, yet the success also relies on collaboration with corporate partners, community organizations, and volunteers. Financial incentives and recognition of their commitment are vital in fostering successful ongoing partnerships. Secondly, 2/3 of supported women prioritize sustainability and social responsibility over scalability. Yet funding often doesn't cater to these solopreneurs. Addressing this gap requires tailored funding mechanisms. Lastly, the landscape of
about 15 seconds, okay? 15 seconds.
With freelance remote work emerging as a new norm. And at Yes, we proudly support the freelancers, and I'm hoping that we will continue through government programs. We can provide communication platforms, documentation management systems, and so on. Thank you for your time and commitment to this cause.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody being so good with your comments. We're going to start with our 6-minute round, and each party will have 6 minutes. I'm going to turn the floor over now to Michelle Ferreri. Michelle, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you to all of our witnesses for being here today at the Status of Women as we study the economic empowerment of women and a wealth of information brought forward by our witnesses. And I want to start with a witness from the riding I come from of Peterborough-Kawartha, but Curve Lake First Nation in particular, and Emily Weetung. She's a star, and anybody just have to Google this woman's name to see what she's achieved. I'm a big fangirl of what she's done for Canadians and across the board and for her community. And I've had the opportunity to chat with her multiple times, and I thought, you know, with International Women's Day around the corner, I thought this would be a great opportunity to revisit a conversation we've had before. And the 3 things I heard you say when you gave your opening statements, Emily, is, you know, childcare, clean water, and partner were kind of like the things that jumped out in terms of helping women achieve their economic empowerment, so to speak. And I want to touch on the partner aspect, because you and I have had this conversation, and as women have really found their stride and have sort of been elevated in society and been able to sort of sit at the tables that forever they weren't invited to sit at, where do men fit into that? And we've seen a lot of the breakdown in families because sometimes the roles have become confusing for some people. And one of the things I've always said about feminism is it's really about women need to know that they need men as much as men need to know they need women. And we need each other fully. And so I guess what I'm asking you is your take on that in terms of the role of the partner and a message for upcoming Women's Day and our roles together.
Thank you, Michelle. Absolutely. I think this is something that I often breeze over because it's such an integral part of the culture that I come from. In Anishinaabe culture, men and women are equal, but satisfy these roles in different ways. And without a partner who was at home supporting me in going out and making these changes and having this career, I certainly would not be able to take the time away from family to attend the things that I do attend. It's remembering that starting place of balance in our communities. Curve Lake elected the first female chief in all of Canada in 1958 with Elsie Knott, and that's the community that I come from, a community that empowers women and supports women. And the men in our community consistently advocate and support for women in leadership, for women in all roles. We opened the first childcare facility in First Nation in Canada many, many years ago. My aunt was a big part of that. This is a role model that I have. But it also allowed women in our community to start to have jobs in the community, to have somewhere safe to leave their children during the day, in order to be able to go out and participate and have that independent economic opportunity. And it's allowed our community to support many, many women going through this. And I think that's a really integral part, is having a group of men, having men in our communities in Canada know that supporting women is the way that we're going to achieve better things, and building policies around that is going to be very, very important. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's a powerful conversation, because nobody wants to be displaced. And I think you can elevate women while empowering men and kids, and especially the boys who are watching those relationships at home, which sets the future of the next generation. I've always said our boys, like in our generation, they won't know any different. They won't know any different than a mom who is a leader. They won't know any different than a mom who's out working and a mom who is sitting at the table, you know? And so I think it's really interesting. But I would love you to share, and you've shared this with me before, your culture in terms of how it views the role of man and woman, and how they are so linked.
Absolutely. In our culture, men are typically responsible for the fire and the food, and women are responsible for the fruit and the water. And without one part of that, if you lose one half of that equation, the world is not in balance. You're not feeding your family. If you don't have water and you don't have food, if you don't have shelter and fire and the care that women provide, all of those things have to come together, and they lean equally on each other. And that's the cultural understanding that we have, and the approach to the world that I was raised in. I come from a family of 5 girls, and my dad was probably the best girl dad you could ever imagine. Just always made us feel like we were important and empowered and an equal party in anything that we did, and he treated my mother that way. And that's a really, I think, refreshing cultural approach that I don't hear in a lot of communities and a lot of families across Canada. But understanding that you can be partners and you each have an equal role to play is the foundation for building better relationships and empowering women to participate in economy and industry and roles. Michelle, I know you and I talk about this all the time. Sitting at this table as mothers is a really, really important place for the next generations to see us.
40 seconds. Well, I guess I would just say thank you for being here. Thank you for what you do, and finding that balance. We were joking before we've had this back and forth where it's like women get to have it all, and isn't that great? Some days it's good and some days it's bad, but awesome. Thank you so much, Emily, and thanks for being here today, and thanks for the work that you do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We're now going to pass it over the next 6 minutes to Sonia Sidhu. Sonia, you have the floor for 6.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, all the witnesses, for insightful testimony. You were talking about that, you have 5 siblings, and then it's nice to see when there's a girls in the family. I have 2 girls, and definitely for the equity, you talked about that. Ms. Clifford, how do you think the federal government's childcare agreement, with the provinces, especially to Ontario and Nunavut, helped Indigenous women in the workforce? What more can be done to better implement these agreements?
In relation to, I think you're referring to $10 a day daycare. If I can get clarification to that point, if that's the point for Inuit Nunangat, our challenge is infrastructure, housing infrastructure generally. If we don't have the infrastructure to provide daycare, our limitations are real for Inuit women to participate in the economy. It's a real challenge for Inuit. We're still very dependent and reliant on home daycares. to ensure that Inuit women are participating in the workforce.
My next question is to yes, employment and entrepreneurship. Your organization has also collaborated with the federal government on your Elevate program, particularly interestingly on your e-learning platform. How are such digital resources are useful to advancing the economic empowerment of women entrepreneurs, especially on that point?
Meltem cut me off. If you'd like to speak to this, Meltem was our Elevate project manager. E-learning is incredibly important, especially when dealing with women entrepreneurs. As much as we can make our programs and our content accessible, and that means available at different hours and different locations, it only helps build the success of the programs. Our offices are open 9 to 5. We have a physical office that people can come into, but that's not always realistic for entrepreneurs in general and women entrepreneurs specifically. So e-learning platforms allow people to learn content, take their skills to the next level on their own schedule.
Thank you. My next question is back to Ms. McLean. Have you ever done I know you did a lot of work in advancing the right of Indigenous communities, but including those that face unique barriers on reserves. Could you elaborate on what these challenges look like for the economic empowerment of Indigenous women on reserve, and how these barriers, the federal government can work on those barriers? We can remove that, and then we can empower our women mostly on reserves, which they have unique barriers.
Absolutely. So there's a number of unique barriers to Indigenous women, status Indian women living on Indian reserves across Canada. There is an inability to leverage the equity asset in our assets, like our homes, in order to get loans to participate in the economy, and that's a huge barrier. We can't get a mortgage on Indian Reserve land without permission from the Minister of Indigenous Services, Canada. It really limits our ability to explore options that other women in Canada have the opportunity to pursue. It limits our ability to invest capital in something that can give back. So in terms of looking at systemic barriers to women participating in the economy, I think that's a very significant one. But we are facing a good benefit. We have an opportunity in the childcare that is available in our community to status women. Childcare is at no cost, and we've seen the benefits of that no-cost childcare in our community and allowing women to go out and participate in the economy, but only as employees and not as entrepreneurs, as much as it would be beneficial to see that. And there's a number of issues that Indigenous communities face under the Indian Act, and the more we see off-ramps without wholesale removal of the provisions that also protect our communities and our people, we're going to start moving in the right direction. So hopefully that answers your question. Thank you.
Yes. And I just want to go back to the employment and entrepreneurship. In your view, how does the 50-30 challenge help ensure that more women, gender-diverse people, and other underrepresented groups are in position for leadership, and how they can get more help?
I think that the challenge is great because it encourages organizations to make a public commitment to diversity. I think in terms of getting additional support, I think always if you can incentivize any program, it's going to be more successful. So incentivization could be in the form of marketing. It could be in the form of opportunities for partnership and networking within. But in general, I think that it's a great opportunity to boost the profile of including more diverse leadership.
Okay, perfect. Very much. We're now going to move it on to Adrienne LaRoche. Adrienne, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Merci.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and thank you to the three witnesses for coming here today. And we're at the end point of this study on women's economic empowerment, and we're realising just how important this study is when